Now. All right. All right, so let's get started. So firstly, thank you everyone for joining today's webinar, the Shure MXW Next 2, ready when you are. My name is Vincent Simono. I'm Technical Marketing Manager at SFM, and I'm joined with Andrew Wilder, who is our Technical Application Specialist, and he'll join me along the way and help answer any questions during our Q&A. So welcome, Andrew. So again, thanks for joining us today. I'm actually really excited to talk to you about this product. I don't think it gets enough credit. So today I guess we'll explore its origin, features, and some real world problems it actually solves. And along the way, I'll show you why this system is kind of worth a second look. So setting the stage, why was the MXW Next 2 actually conceived? And to better understand why it exists, we first need to look at the bigger picture. And the AV world is changing. Workplaces are becoming hybrid. Education is going digital, and the event spaces are demanding a lot more flexibility more than ever. So, what was missing was a wireless microphone that a system combined a few things. So, ease of use for non-technical users, scalability, especially for diverse environments, and something that's professional grade sound without the whole complicated setup. And Shure, who's a leader in obviously professional audio, kind of saw these trends and created the MXW Next 2 to help really bridge that gap. And it's a solution for today's challenges and obviously tomorrow's needs. And it was really designed to really deliver simplicity, scalability, and obviously exceptional performance for any type of setting. So let's start where all the magic happens, and that's the MXW APX-D2, aka what I call the base station. So this is, I believe, an industry first where the base station is not only your two-channel wireless receiver, but also the microphone charger and the digital signal processor or DSP and all in one. So the MXW APX-D2 really gives you a ton of value. In terms of inputs, it obviously gives you your two channels of wireless microphones. On the back of the unit, we get one analog audio input, the Dante inputs, a USB-C port to really plug into your computer, and another to power the base station. And lastly, we get an audio output for any type of sound reinforcement type applications, and we'll touch on that a little later, or a simple audio out for any type of audio conference calls. There's also two network ports on the back, and that's where you use it for the Dante streams. There's an indicator LED on the MXW APX-D2 that provides the audio signal strength. And right next to that is the mode button, and that allows for quick selection of presets, which means no need to reprogram your system every time you want to switch from, let's say, a presentation mode or a conference mode. And this is huge, and we'll get into this a little later. What's really nice about the MXW APX-D2 base station is that the charging ports have some charging pins in there, as you can see on the image. So when you drop the microphone into the charging ports, it actually feels secure, ensuring that the microphone isn't actually, that it's actually being charged. And all too often, I've seen customers getting their microphones from their base stations and noticing it's never been charged because the mic never really had a proper contact with the charge port. So this won't happen with the Next 2. Great feature. Between the two charging ports, you'll also notice a button that says link. And this button is really used when linking a microphone to the base station. So only two microphones can be linked at the same time per base. But should a colleague or someone in the company bring their own MXW Next 2 microphone and use it in a room, all they would need to do is place that microphone into the charging port, as so, press the link, hold the link button for a few seconds, and the mic has been linked to that base. And again, more on this later, a fantastic feature I think many of you will love. There's a Kensington lock in the back for security. And speaking of security, wireless reliability is critical, and the Next 2 really delivers as the APX-D2 base operates on DECT technology. So DEC technology, for everybody who doesn't know, it operates on the 1.9 gigahertz spectrum, and DEC means digital enhanced cordless communication, and that operates on a cleaner spectrum, really for secure and stable communication. So this is great because it can really help avoid the real crowded 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi bands, which means more consistent and uninterrupted audio. Huge plus, and as you know, you don't ever want your audio cutting out ever. So DECT also has seems to have a better audio fidelity for type of audio application. So this is a huge plus. Okay, so what's inside the base station, which is really, really interesting, is that it has a built-in DSP. Um, and that's what makes the system so unique. And again, a DSP, for anybody who doesn't know, means a digital signal processor. So a DSP is usually needed for a lot of applications, and many don't know that it actually powers a lot of video conferences and boardrooms. And a lot goes on in a DSP, and the neXt2 is no different. Now, it's not a fully fledged out, it's not fully fledged out like as a rack mount unit that you would, but that doesn't mean that it's not any less capable. In fact, quite the contrary. As I mentioned before, there's a demand for more simplified DSPs in a slightly smaller applications where DSP is required, but needs to be smaller, more compact, and most importantly, easy to operate and program. So the APX-D2 uses the Shure IntelliMix DSP, and it obviously sports features like auto mixing, automatic echo cancellation, noise reduction, automatic gain control, and an EQ. And again, I think all those put together is a real recipe for creating a great audio experience. Which brings me to the mode button on the base station. So we're going to move back one slide. So if you notice the mode button on the base station, this is where this will actually change the configuration of the internal DSP based on what you want to do. So there are actually three modes. So there's a presentation mode, there's a conference mode, and then there's a direct mode. So presentation mode will pretty much keep everything activated within the DSP, including the auto mixer, which auto mixing the wireless microphones, the analog input, as well as the Dante channels. And this is mainly used for sound reinforcement situations where the presenter just wants to be heard over the speakers. The conference mode is particularly interesting. This mode really helps this disables the analog input, but also uses it as an AEC reference or an automatic echo cancellation for any far end conferences. So this is really going to ensure that the far end is not hearing any echoes, and this is a wonderful preset for education, which again I'll touch on shortly. Now, the MXW is not only used as a standalone system, it has a ton of features to stand on its own, but it could also be used in conjunction with a larger or more a more complete DSP if control, for instance, is needed, for instance. So in this case, the direct mode would be used as it would just simply bypass the auto mix feature so that the external DSP can process the rest. And the built-in DSP can be accessed just using a laptop or a computer on the same network as the MXW APX-D2 on the network. A few more cool features I think that stand out that you should be aware is that the unit has a built-in spectrum scanner to really estimate how many channels you can fit across the spectrum. And that's a really neat feature that gives you a nice visual in terms of what's going on in the local environment. The other one that's particularly popular amongst government verticals is the encryption. Now, the audio from the neXt2 can be encrypted in AES 256. So that combined, sorry, with the DECT technology, really means that your conversations stay secure. That's super important for those type of applications, especially in government use cases. Now, keeping it simple. What's really cool about the MXW neXt2 is the fact that if you wanted to step it up a notch in terms of adding a ceiling microphone or adding speakers, Shure really makes it easy for you. So when doing conference calls, If you want to add a microphone array to capture as many people as possible on top of having the main presenters talking on a wireless mic, you can add the Shure MXA 901, 902, or 90 or 920 for maximum coverage. This will further enhance the audio fidelity for the conferences, and there's nothing like getting audio fatigue because of the poor quality of audio, for instance. The MXA 901, 902, and the bigger brother 920 can be a great addition, and they all communicate together over the network. So same goes for adding speakers in the room. You can actually integrate Shure's network speakers onto the neXt2 system just by adding them to the same network. So what I particularly like about adding the Shure network speakers is that it doesn't require an amplifier. So just plug them into the same network as the MXW neXt2 on a PoE powered switch. Um, and a small setup and you're good to go. And this will allow you to add some sound reinforcement to any of your applications. And by the way, for those who don't know what sound reinforcement is, it's when you just want to add a bit of amplification to the presenter's voice so that he or she can be heard throughout the room. And to be honest with you, a properly set up sound reinforcement system is actually quite pleasing to the ears as it doesn't feel overly amplified and it feels more natural. So that's it for that. Let's take a look at a few examples of what this would look like in a schematic or a typical application. So we'll start off with a sound reinforcement, as I just touched on. Um, Basically, in this case, we have a hardwired microphone. So not only do we have we have the two decked wireless microphone, but we also have a hardwired microphone plugged in, as well as a mic preamp in the analog input. And in this application, sorry, we would have either be using IP speakers or DSP. So we're utilizing the Dante protocol and sending the audio through the network using Dante. A similar example, but for video conference setup, as you can see, we're going with, excuse me, we're going a step up using a Shure ceiling microphone array via the Dante network again, as well as the two decked wireless microphones. And in this case, we're using a body pack and a handheld. And the PC is hooked up to the base using USB-C for any type of video conferencing situations. And the analog output is being used to send the video conferencing audio to any type of external amplifiers, such as an 8 ohm or 70-volt system. And again, this is a bit of a rough drawing of both applications. I just want to provide a kind of an overview of what the connections might look like, as it does simplify a lot of things in terms of wiring. And I'll demonstrate that in a little bit with a few similar use cases, in a more graphical way. Anything to add, Andrew, or is that are we on the right track?
No, you're definitely on the right track here. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, let's dive into the microphones, as even the microphones kind of bring a unique versatility to any of these type of projects. Anyone looking into this type of system, you'll want to choose some microphones, and Shure offers a variety of microphones, as you can see. So they offer 4 handheld microphones as well as a boundary microphone and a body pack. On the handheld side, we have the MXW2 SM58, so the famous cardioid mic from Shure. We have the MXW2 Beta 58, which sports a super cardioid mic. We have the MXW2 SM86, and we have the MXW2 VP68. And that's a great forgiving omnidirectional mic, really perfect for passing around the crowd during, let's say, a Q&A. Then we jump in all the way to the left. We have the MXW6X boundary mic that can really sit on a desktop, and you can actually order it with a cardioid capsule, or which is a pickup pattern that will essentially focus anything going on in front of the mic, or you can be ordered with an omnidirectional capsule, and that'll really help capture a 360-degree area. Right next to it, we have the hybrid body pack, the MXW1X. And in my opinion, that's the coolest one and the most versatile, where there's a built-in microphone into the body pack. So the microphone could be actually put in a shirt pocket, can actually be put in a shirt pocket and be hung on a lanyard and be passed around from one presenter to another. And if precision is needed, then the body pack actually has a TA4M type of connector where a lav or a headset microphone can be used instead of the onboard one. And again, pretty versatile, pretty neat. And I can think of a few applications for the hybrid pack, and I'll be touching on one of those specifically a little later. As you can see, I don't know if you can see clearly, but all the microphones have a dot matrix display that can clearly display relevant information such as battery life, your signal strength, the enrolled channel, as well as the assigned base station. And the body pack and boundary microphones, when fully charged, obviously, can have a charge of up to 17 hours. And the handhelds can have up to 28 hours of battery life. So I think that's pretty amazing. And then let's take a look on how to order the system. As you'll notice that everything is pretty separate, but you'll see it's pretty straightforward. So you always have to start with a base station, which is going to be your MXW APXD2. And then from there, like I mentioned, you'll have the choice to mix and match some microphones that you need. So, excuse me. So if you want to use a handheld microphone with, let's say, a lav a microphone or a boundary microphone, you can do so. Only two microphones, as I mentioned before, only two microphones can be linked to a base station at the same time. If you wish to buy, let's say, a third for a different application down the road, such as a boundary mic with the omnidirectional capsule, that's not a problem. All you need to do is place it into the docking station. You hold the link button for a few seconds, and it will enroll the new microphone to the system. So there's no need to really program anything into the system. It's that simple. So again, really to recap here, pretty straightforward. Start with the base, which is your access point base station, and choose two microphones, and you're good to go. Let's take a look at some of the most common use cases. And again, if you have anything to share on these, please let me know. Feel free to interrupt, Andrew. We'll start with the conference room. So the first one is your typical conference room diagram. And in this scenario, you'll see they wish to host some video conferences and want not only to have microphones to capture everyone around the table using some boundary microphones, but also they want to hear everyone on the video conference from the overhead speakers. So we're utilizing two boundary microphones with the omnidirectional capsules to really capture everyone around the table. And in this scenario, there's two boundary microphones that are required, as one probably wouldn't be enough for the size of the table or the room. And then again, for the in-ceiling speakers, we're using a pair of Shure network speakers. So those are the MXN 5Cs that are used so that anyone on the video conference side can anybody in the room can actually hear anybody on the video conferencing. Not sure if you can see where everything is actually being wired to in the diagram, but there isn't much in terms of equipment. And that's really the benefit of this whole system, is that it's pretty minimalistic in nature. You basically have your MXW neXt2. You have a PC, which is usually required to host your video conference. And that's pretty much it. Should your room be a little bit smaller with half the seats, you can maybe get away with going with one boundary microphone. But that means you can mix it up. You can mix up your microphones a bit, your choice of microphones. So you can have a boundary microphone and then opt for, let's say, a handheld microphone, as well as if you have a presenter, or simply go with a body pack, as I mentioned before, and have a presenter wear a lav mic or a headset. Anything that you'd want to touch on or ideas for this type of conference room, Andrew, or?
No, I mean this is a great design for a conference room, and I like the simplicity of it, right? It gives you the ability to do a little bit of voice lift with those two mics, as well as cover the conference room, right? The struggle we have a lot of time with voice lift is ceiling microphones because they're far away. So you kind of get around that game before feedback issue by having those handhelds or the boundary mics closer to the speaker and further away from or sorry, closer to the talker and further away from the speaker. So this is a really good solution.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. All right, let's jump into the education scenario. And now, those boundary microphones with the omnidirectional capsules actually a good option, but coverage wouldn't be their would be their main limitation when looking at a large room. But as I mentioned before, the really neat thing about the neXt2 is that you can actually integrate the more renowned Shure microphone arrays to any type of room, increasing the coverage and fidelity. So this scenario can look like a lot of different real world environments, such as a training room or a classroom. And schools nowadays, especially since COVID, have started to have more hybrid sessions where some students can't attend physically in class, but can connect remotely. So here we have two presenters, and you can think of the teacher standing in back of the classroom with a handheld microphone, kind of listening to the students' oral presentations, providing some feedback, and another handheld microphone for the student giving the presentations at the front of the class. A ceiling microphone array, such as in this particular case, which is the MXA 902, is actually being used here for a few reasons. So one, the MXA 902 microphone can capture a maximum of a 20 by 20 foot area and capturing any sort of classroom interactions between the students and the teacher so that the remote students can actually participate like those in class. The MXA 902 also sports a built-in speaker so that students in the classroom can actually hear the remote students speak. So the MXA 902 also helps keep the ceiling clutter-free, as you can tell. So a lot going on, again, keeping a very minimalistic look. I did want to mention a caveat specifically with the MXA 902 speaker array. So the MXA 902 array, as I stated, only has a 20 by 20 coverage and it cannot be expanded, nor can it be scaled in any way. Um, so, should you have a larger training room, for instance, you might want to look at, let's say, going with a pair of MXA 901s to expand the microphone coverage, or use something like some Shure IP speakers, as the MXA 901 and the 902 do not have a built-in speaker. The 902 is the unique one with the built-in speaker, but generally, a large room that requires, let's say, multiple microphone arrays would generally also require adequate speaker coverage as well. Therefore, a 901, 920 would be your best bet alongside some Shure IP speakers. I know it's the 90 the 902 is the tricky one. Do you have anything to add to that, Andrew? That
No, I think you nailed it. With the 902, we really want to stick to the room size, right? The 20 by 20, because as you said, you need adequate speaker coverage when you get larger than that. And that one speaker is not generally going to cover it.
exactly. Okay, so now circling back to the classroom education scenario, a particularly cool use case I heard from a colleague of mine in the industry, specifically with the MXW neXt2 for schools. So, should a school, excuse me, implement the neXt2 throughout the school, each teacher could essentially get an assigned body pack like this. And remember, the body pack microphone has a built-in microphone, and you could attach a lanyard to it, and it could be could be used to wear around your neck. So each class would have a base station, again locked with a Kensington lock, and basically each teacher entering the classroom, a new classroom, they would simply have to place their base station into the unit, hold the link button for a few seconds, and voila. The microphone is now linked to that base station, and teachers can continue to do so as they move around from classroom to classroom. And this is a great way to have the fixed base station in each classroom and having a teacher have an assigned microphone. And I thought that was a particularly cool use case and really a testament to basically Shure wanting to keep things ultra simple when it comes to the system. And it has to be simple, keeping, for everyone to being able to use it. And lastly, we have our what I'd call a hybrid solution. So this is probably one of my favorite scenarios when it comes to the MXW neXt2 system. This is where we mesh conferencing and let's say sound reinforcement together. Excuse me. Um, this could easily be a variety of scenarios where there's a presenter or two with a small audience, either at a conference room table or spread to a bunch of smaller tables. Excuse me. But the front room presenter basically has a wireless handheld microphone, whereas the second person on the back left side of the room is probably using a boundary microphone, the MXW6X, with, let's say, the cardioid capsule. So it's really capturing um, anything that's directly going on in front. Uh, but from and for the room participants, we have basically the MXA 902 at the top of the ceiling, but an MXA 901 would also can also be used, and a Shure IP speaker right next to it. So you have your video conferencing meeting. Everyone on the far end can hear what both presenters are saying using the wireless microphones, and the participants in the room using the ceiling microphone array as well. But now the room can also clearly hear the presenter due to the sound reinforcement system. So doing a voice lift or sound reinforcement and conferencing from the same system, all coming from a small unit like the neXt2, I find is remarkable. And I haven't seen anything done so far that's been so compact, versatile, and easy to use. And I remember in my past life, users always asking me for some type of setup like this, and it was never really possible without having a full out DSP with a bunch of other equipments in the rack. So really, really nice. Again, simple unit. Now, don't forget that in all three applications that we just talked about, because there's a DSP built into the base of the MX 902, there are a lot of features working in the background to create that magical experience, such as the auto mixing. So anyone who isn't speaking, the system will actually automatically lower the volume until the person starts speaking again. And there's also the noise reduction, and of course the AEC that really helps with the echo, making sure that the echo is being canceled out during a video conference call. And again, all these features really make the all happen actually within the neXt2 DSP. So again, this was just a high level overview of the neXt2, and I kind of wanted to just touch on some of the main points. Um, and that was basically it. I think that it's a real eye opener and a game changer, especially for certain verticals, such as government and education, of course, in corporate environments. But I'll give you a small recap just to kind of give an idea of what I was trying to touch on. So we got the built-in DSP, we got your flexible input options, as well as all the outputs. Either local amplifier for IP speakers is great, using the MX2 for sound reinforcement, video conferencing, or both, which is also really cool. And just at the touch of a button, again, just with the mode presets, I think is really, really nice. A nice selection of microphones to choose from is really convenient, covering a wide range of applications. And we can't forget security, where the wireless transmitters obviously use the DEC technology and can be programmed to be encrypted in AES 256, really keeping your discussions secure. And let's not forget, keeping it simple and easy to use. So, with that being said, I know we covered a lot in a small amount of period of time. Still a little bit high level. I try not to go too technical. Let's open up the floor. I'm with Andrew, anyways, one of our technical application specialists. So I help answer some questions. So feel free to drop a question in the chat box and we'll be happy to answer them. No questions. I don't know if we covered everything in the presentation or
Yeah, I think you hit a lot of the key points and covered most of it. So unless there's some more very deep, you've probably got most of the answers out there.
all right. We have one question from Alex. What is the average range of the handhelds with this system? Um, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew. I believe it, if programmed correctly, can do 150 feet. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. And any of the MXW system, if you're aware of our previous models and right up to this new model, there are variants and settings, so you can kind of go with the low, medium, high, and maximum distance. So we're looking at 25-foot radius, 50, 100-foot, and then a 150-foot radius. So now that is all clear line of sight, and perfect RF conditions. So I would typically say you're going to be a little bit shy of that unless you're in a bunker where there's no other RF and you've got the unit mounted above all bodies and there's no metal in between
Yeah.
the transmitter and the receiver.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense.
A great question.
Actually, there's a follow-up question to that. Can you add a signal, like any type of signal booster fins as you would with a traditional type of wireless system? I don't believe so. Not with,
No, you
yeah.
can't, right? So the base actually has the antennas built into it. It is everything is over the network. So it is that base unit that is the antenna. So that's a great point, Alex. What we don't want to do is bury this in a rack below the table, right? Um, Being that the base is also the charger, it's expected that it's sitting out on the credenza, at that 36 inches. So if you're using it at the table around the room, the transmitters can actually send signal to that receiver. By burying it in a rack or in a drawer, because you don't want to see it, you're just going to block your RF and it's not going to be the right solution.
Yeah. That's a good question, Alex. Do you have anything else?
I mean, I would reiterate what Vincent said. This is a fantastic solution in the education market, right? If you've got a lectern at the front of a classroom and they're presenting, it just gives a great, easy way for your instructors to move around and walk around the room. And it's perfect for those small to medium-sized huddle rooms in corporate where you need a little bit of reinforcement in the room because some people are hard of hearing or very soft-spoken.
Yeah. Actually, Alex brings another great
Yeah.
comment. A great
Yeah.
system for multi-purpose for breakout rooms, and that's exactly it.
Yeah, even in a rental situation, right? So I don't know if you guys are doing rentals, it's not just installs, I mean, because it pairs so easily, you can drop this in and then if you have the cable pre-built, take that to a powered speaker and you've got two mics in the room ready to go, right? So even in a rental situation, it's super quick, super easy.
Yeah, yeah. We're getting it. And so price ranges. That I'm actually gonna post this email right here at the end on the last slide. So if you want to get some pricing, you can probably send any type of inquiries at info@surecanada.com, and somebody will reach out to you for sure with the price range, and we'll get in touch. We'll get in touch with you. For sure. So if you want, again, send your request to info@surecanada.com, and we'll be happy to put you in contact with somebody who can get you some pricing for sure. Again, I'm surprised there's not more. I don't think there's again. I don't think this system gets enough credit, so I'm glad. I'm hoping that people on this call got a little bit of insight into this. Okay. So if there's not any more questions, I think we'll end it there. So, thanks again for everyone for your time and for joining us. Um, I really hope you found it insightful and learned something new today. But most importantly, I hope it gave you some ideas when it comes to setting up your next classroom, boardroom, or training room. The neXt2 is a great product. I think it really can probably fit in a lot of different environments. It's clutter free, and most importantly, it's really easy to use for anyone. So if you think of any other questions, like I said before, if you'd like someone to reach out to you with more information, please send us an email at info@surecanada.com. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions, and we'll make sure you're well taken care of. Um, and right before I leave, before I thank everybody again, there we have one last question that just popped up. Is this system good enough to be used by a singer? I would say so.
Yeah, you could definitely use it for a singer. I don't know that I'd consider it my primary system for a singer, but it's, choose the right capsule. If you got the Beta 58 or the SM58 on there, you've got the quality of that microphone, right?
Yeah.
The only difference is you are working in deck band, so you don't have the variance of the UHF band, meaning that you can change and move your channels around if you run into interference, right? It's going to move within the deck band, but you need to make sure that that's available where you're using it.
Yeah. Plus the base station is
Yeah, it needs to be visible, so that means it's gotta be on stage somewhere off to the side. You don't want it behind the monitor or underneath the, stage deck.
exactly. Exactly. Cool. Well, if there's if you guys think of any other questions, again, feel free to just send it to us at info@surecanada.com. We'll be happy to answer any questions, whether simplistic or technical in nature. And with that, thanks again for joining us and have a great week ahead, guys. Cheers.